Our next speaker is Dr. Mizia Kuvanda, who graduated with a PhD in biology in 2017. After her PhD, she completed her master's in genetic counseling at Sarah Lawrence College in New York. Today, she works as outreach manager for Simon Searchlight, and her talk title is CLC-4 Simon Searchlight Registry Update.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yes, I would like to start off by saying thank you to the conference organizers, as well as we can make these slides available. So if there's interest, I believe I shared it with Rebecca. So please let us know if you have interest or follow-up questions for any of our details and what I'm presenting today. Okay, so I'm going to cover a bit of background on Simon Searchlight, as there are some researchers in the room who might not have heard about us, as well as how data is accessed from our registry. I'm going to cover some of our registry data overall numbers, in addition to detailing what samples we have available, moving on to medical history data provided by our families, Vineland data, and child behavioral checklist data from our surveys that we have within our registry. So starting off by saying Simon Searchlight is an international research program with the goal of accelerating science and improving the lives for people with rare neurodevelopmental genetic disorders, of which is CLCN4. I am representing a amazing team of people that include other genetic counselors, clinical staff, scientific staff, coordinators, communications team, data managers, website oversight and managers. So really a lot of people make this large registry and database possible. If you walk away from anything from the presentation today, I hope it's two things. I'll cover all the goals, but in general, I want to highlight two in particular. The first one being that we spend 99.9% of our time collecting information. We collect medical, behavioral information from our participants, in addition to blood samples when possible. And we really want to get this into the hands of researchers. We're not trying to be siloing this information, inhibitory in any way. So those are the two main highlights for the researchers in the room, to really make sure that they recognize that we are here to get this into your hands for accelerating the research. What we also do is we provide information back to families in various ways, including this type of presentation, showing the data to families and individualized reports. We have a method to connect researchers to our participants for recruitment. I'll have a highlight slide and a few slides on that. And then ultimately, we're trying to lower the barrier to get more researchers into the space and get more understanding, more learning about these genetic conditions, as we see ourselves in the larger tool for an NDD community. Our funding comes from the Simons Foundation. The Simons Foundation has many departments. We function under the SAFARI, the Simons Foundation Autism Research Initiative arm of the Simons Foundation. So Simon Searchlight is one of 3 active cohorts, which is a genes first. Participants have a genetic diagnosis that is on our eligibility list, and then they're able to register on our website online and provide all this information, in addition to blood samples if possible. Our other 2 active cohorts is the SPARK cohort. So this is only functioning in the US for participants that have a diagnosis of autism, and then they can undergo genetic sequencing. There's whole genome sequencing currently for participants that are registering as of right now. And they get the genetic diagnosis if they opt in for that information. But that's our diagnosis first cohort. And then the Autism BrainNet, which is possible to participate and donate in Canada, the US, and the UK, which is postmortem brain tissue from individuals with a genetic diagnosis associated with a neurodevelopmental condition, autism, or a neurotypical person. There also is external funding available for international researchers. So please look out for those. This is usually different requests for applications for funding is rolling throughout the year. And then we have research resources such as animal models, our IPSC repository, and Safari Base, which is where all of this is requestable. I'll highlight that in a few slides as well. And Safari Gene, which is a catalog of autism-related genetic conditions and publication information, which is freely available online. So CLCN4 has been on our inclusion list since 2021. Participants can register worldwide in English, German, Spanish, French, Italian, Dutch, and Portuguese. We're working on getting more and more surveys available in those other languages, but as of right now, they're able to register and participate. What we collect overall, we try to span the breadth of neurodevelopmental features that might occur in our population. We have all of these offered at baseline or when they first register, and then some surveys that we follow up with. But we require a clinical genetic lab report to confirm the genetic diagnosis that they have and obtain their variant data so that we can put that in the database. We also ask detailed medical history, medication history, any developmental psychiatric diagnosis that they might have, seizure history, sleep, and various developmental and behavioral surveys. There's a mixture here of validated measures and in-house measures. So the validated measures are denoted with an asterisk. And this is offered to any participants that have a classification of pathogenic, likely pathogenic, or a variant of uncertain significance. So we're not excluding anyone, even if they don't have a problematic or pathogenic variant. We want everyone that might have a genetic result participating and getting all these surveys. So Research Match is our program that is running, that makes it possible for researchers to formally request participants to be connected to their research. This can be based off the participant genetic condition, region, variant classification. We've had about 25 Research Match projects go through for the Simon Searchlight community. That includes over 4,000 families that have been invited to participate. But researchers also can put in, and this is all free, they can also implement a survey that we don't have within our registry and get that out to those participants as well. So you can always email the sdbr@simonsfoundation.org if you have any questions about this program. So here we're just highlighting that the data and biological samples are highly used and requested. In blue, you see the number of individual requests, the number of individual researchers and institutions. What you can appreciate is that within there's more researchers and requests than institutions. So researchers are coming back and getting our updated data over time. As well as once an institution is affiliated within the Simons Foundation, the Safari Base portal, it's much easier for other researchers in that institute or university to gain access and be affiliated and start requesting data. So we have hundreds of requests going out for data all the time. The data is free to access. Biospecimens come with a slight cost for shipping and handling, but we are not trying to make this in any way inhibitory for research. Our IPSCs here that we'll just point out that we've had 173 requests come in for IPSCs, and that represents over 1,200 vials of cell lines that have gone out. So come and absolutely look at what we have and see what's available for you for this community, as well as others that you might be interested in, which includes also KDDS, which we have within our registry. To make a request, this is done through our portal base.safari.org. You create the account and affiliate your institution. So again, this paperwork issue can sometimes, like actually creating the account is quick. Sometimes getting the signing officials and getting the paperwork is just the biggest barrier. But our team, the Safari-based team, really wants to ensure and make sure that you can get access. So they're very helpful with any questions and finding and identifying people if needed. The actual request is just to say, what are you going to do with the data and who's going to access the data? And then there's a review of the application and approval, usually around up to 2 weeks. The only reasons that we really see applications get not approved is if we don't have the research resources, we don't have data on that community, or we don't have samples, for example, is a common reason that application would be not approved. Now, in terms of numbers in our CLCN4 registry, these steps represent what the participant might go through, which starts at signing up online. The first meaningful part of the participation is having an approved genetic lab report, which we have almost 60 participants with a CLCN4 variant. This includes the variant of uncertain significance, likely path, and path numbers total. At that point, once the lab report is approved, then participants are open, they are open to all our surveys. We highlight the medical history survey as it is one of our longest and most thorough wide systemic coverage survey. So we have 31 participants that have completed a medical history survey and 44 that have completed one of our other surveys. And we've had 7 participants so far contribute by a blood sample to the registry. What you're looking at now is 50 participants that have a pathogenic and likely pathogenic variant within our registry. We're not showing the variants of uncertain significance, but if you come and get our data, all the information is there. The variants are there, so you can make your own judgment on classification as well as use the data. For our data summaries, we only show the path or likely path variants. This includes 16 more participants than we showed at the last presentation, which was, I believe, October 2025. So it is, so we do have great participation numbers, really doubling in the last 2 years, I would say. The last time I looked, in 2024, I believe it was about half. So we have great participation, and the registry is really moving for our families. What we try to show here is what's known about the functional effect for those particular variants. However, please let us know, especially for myself, this is something that I'm my research brain and question always is digging into the functional effect of the variant. So if I haven't accurately summarized this, or I'm off base with what the functional effect is, please let me know. And I'll lastly say that we do have 10 maternal carriers in our research registry, and we are collecting surveys on these maternal carriers, as well as 2 paternal carriers. This includes 1 variant of uncertain significance father that has passed the variant on to their children, I believe, and 1 parent who is a very low mosaic for the variant. We are collecting surveys on both of those parents as well, but I believe 1 parent has not filled out their survey. Anyways, I was looking into the details so that if there were any questions, I can help be very transparent as to what we might have in our registry. Where the families are located worldwide for Simon Searchlight in general includes 88 countries. So that's what you're going to see with the blue colors, they representing the higher participation with the darker blue for Searchlight in general. Our CLCN4 participants are denoted with the yellow pointed balloon balloon for where they're located, with the majority of people being in Europe and the US currently. For our biospecimens, so we've had 7 participants contribute to available samples. We've had 5 samples attempt reprogramming. 2 of those have failed reprogramming, and we don't have further samples available for those 2 participants. We have 3 iPSC lines in progress. I'll show where they're at the next slide. So we have all 7 samples available for whole blood DNA, and we have 2 samples currently available for PBMC request. I really want to also highlight that we launched in about November 2025 a program for researchers to request PBMCs. So previously we were not distributing PBMCs, but as of right now we are. And so this is for external researchers to create IPSCs in their own research lab or through their own institution or affiliated organization so that they can do research on these samples. So we're no longer trying to, you know, not hoard, but we're no longer gatekeeping any access to samples. So if we cannot create IPSCs, we're going to make those PBMCs available as long as the participants consent to IPSC creation. So that will be one reason that a sample will not be listed as available. These are the current IPSCs that we've created, these three. They've all passed QC, like our regular quality control measures, and they're waiting for one last step just because they're X-linked gene. This is an X-linked gene, is to make sure that the copy of the X with the variant has not undergone inactivation, which we have had in other X-linked conditions that the cell lines are completely inactive for the variant that actually has for the chromosome that actually has the variant. This has been a little bit of an issue in that the screening of X inactivation has taken a long time, to be very transparent, for the organization that does create our iPSCs. So the New York Stem Cell Foundation is contracted with the Simons Foundation to create our iPSCs, and they're an excellent organization. But in the fall, Jackson Labs actually purchased the New York Stem Cell Foundation, and this caused an extreme delay on a lot of their ongoing efforts, including our iPSCs. And so, unfortunately, this delay has made it that this X inactivation hadn't happened. However, as of last month, I believe, the New York Stem Cell Foundation and our contract in particular has resumed to business as usual back to the timeline that we had been promised originally. And our team at the Simons Foundation and Safari had been advocating absolutely every single week that they met with the New York Stem Cell Foundation to really push this effort that we're contracting them to complete. So we're hoping that shortly these will be available. Any updates about the live progress can be found on this link right here. So this is a Google Sheet that we have available. So if you go to this bit.ly, you'll be able to see our complete catalog of iPSCs in progress and completed that are available for request. For our two PBMCs that are now requestable, these are the two that are available. And I want to highlight that we're hoping to double our biorepository sample numbers in the next few months. We have 4 families that were sent out kits for blood collection last week, I believe. We have 2 families that already have the kits at their home. So if you're in contact with any of these families, please let us know if they have any questions. We want to help facilitate blood collection. We have across the US blood labs where families can go and get their blood drawn. But if families do not have access to Quest labs, then we actually have contracted in-home phlebotomy. So if possible, we will get phlebotomists into families' homes. So again, we're really trying to get this, get as much blood collected for the community and research as possible. Of note, if you go to this bit.ly, you'll see the entire Simon Searchlight PBMC resource as well. It's also a Google Sheet. This is updated not monthly like the other sheet, but this is updated with every data release. So every time there's a data release, the new available PBMCs will be listed. So this will not be refreshed as often. There is to be a data release. It's scheduled for the end of June. So that's when another update is expected to happen for this PBMC inventory. So now I'll switch gears to what we have, highlighting some of our medical history data for our participants, only including, once again, the likely path and pathogenic variants for this data summary. The majority of our participants that I have included here are female, but there are 29 participants that have completed medical history, with the majority of participants under the age of 20. And an average age of 13. For our developmental and behavioral diagnoses, we're most often seeing intellectual disability or developmental delay. We've grouped that together, and language impairment. However, not every single participant has endorsed either of these, which we realize is a little surprising when reading the literature for CLCN4. Additionally, to say, I should have mentioned it here, we usually do data summaries for groups of 10 or more. So ideally, once we get to 10 male participants, we can separate out the data as well, because this is also combining the males and females, which have often a different phenotype as well. So we can work with our data group to have a more specific summary for the community. For overall medical issues from this medical history, most often participants are reporting a neurological issue, having a seizure, vision issues, having a surgery, vision issues, or seizures. Our data team has highlighted which are the most common within that subdomain, and I'll cover some of these medical issues in more detail in the next few slides. But for neurological, you'll see most often muscle tone, and for vision, you'll most often see having strabismus. So, as mentioned, for neurological, the low muscle tone is most common, but it's not the majority of participants. We also see smaller head size, movement disorder, coordination issues for these participants with CLCN4. About 1 in 3 participants have had seizures in their lifetime. What we're seeing is that the average age of first seizure is just over 1 year old, with a range of that is quite on the younger side, so 2 months to 3 years. More than half of the participants have reported seizure control or remission. With medication or without medication. We have again, those nitty-gritty details within our registry. Vision issues are quite varied. So although we said strabismus is the most common diagnosis, and nearsighted at equal frequency, it is quite variable across the community and not really one sticking out for this group of 29. Very briefly, the endocrinological and the orthopedic issues are quite rare within this community, with kidney issues also being quite rare, and some gastro issues reported, including GERD and constipation. For my last few slides on the medical history, I have medication details. So medications that are taken are often include for issues for sleep, gastrointestinal issues, and seizure medications. We track when a person is on the medication, going off the medication, and what they're using it for, as well as efficiency of medications that you can access in our database. For seizure medications in particular, Keppra is the most commonly reported one that seems to work for participants. But as you could tell, there were 9 people and valproic acid. But it doesn't seem as though there's one medication that works for everyone across the spectrum. Now switching to the Vineland that we have within our registry, this includes 18 participants within our database that have completed this survey. For the Vineland data summaries, how we're showing it is the actual participant age in years. So how old were they when the survey was completed, across the x-axis, across the y-axis. For the answers in the subdomain, we're able to graph the level of functioning in the neurotypical population in years, so matching it to this Y, creating a sort of developmental curve. We have the most recent Vineland reported here. However, some participants have many Vinelands reported, making it possible to make individual curves for those participants, and we offer the Vineland every single year. So for the expressive language development for our 18 participants where we have data included, almost half of the individuals are likely to be using language by the age of 4. This line denotes the line at which participants would be able to use single words to request based off the answers in the Vineland. As well as for this data summary, our data team has excluded two potential outliers. So when participants' level of functioning in their answers are much greater or greater than the years they actually are, we just don't include it in the data summary. But again, it is absolutely within the data if of interest. So for personal care skills, we have 70% of individuals, almost 70% of individuals likely to be feeding themselves at the age of 4 and older. And for social development, we have that about 43% of individuals are likely to be making eye contact at the age of 4 and older. And you can see the large range of abilities and skills reported for our participants. On this last data slide that I have, I'll cover the survey information from the Child Behavioral Checklist. The Child Behavioral Checklist is administered for participants from the age of 1.5 to 5, as well as 6 to 18. So that's the range that this standardized measure covers. We don't have enough answers for the participants with the age 1.5 to 5, but we do have this information from participants with the children the age of 6 to 18. The thing to point out here is the circles that are used in this graphic do not indicate a greater frequency. This is essentially the list of the behavioral and emotional concerns, the top ones that are reported by this measure, but it's not necessarily in this particular size of the circle order. It's an unfortunate visual element that can be misleading, but families are reporting that participants are hyperactive, might be frequently distracted, impulsive, and have difficulty with sleeping. Thank you so much for your time, the fellow speakers. I'm learning so much. I'm taking lots of details that I will share with our team. And if families would like to register, as mentioned, they can register on our website, so the simonsearchlight.org. And send any questions, research or otherwise, as well to our coordinator email here. And that's how you can contact me. That email. And researchers can request data and biospecimens at base.safari.org. Thank you.